Gary B. Smith. All righty, Rob. What do we make of this?
He's an unapologetic guy. You know, he's a guy from New Jersey, and he's not afraid.
As if that's a problem.
And he's not afraid to show it. But no, he's not the poster child of compromise. But if he wants to run for president in 2016, he needs to come to the center more. If he wants to be on a national stage, on an international stage, he really needs to cut out the antics. The antics are not helping his case in the slightest bit.
You know, oddly, his antics and his governing style have never been on the same page, if you think about it, Gary B., because his telling people to shut up now and then notwithstanding, he's been pretty good at working with Democrats reaching across the aisle. So maybe they're more in simpatico now. What do you think?
They may be in simpatico in New Jersey. I don't think they're in simpatico nationally. Look, the Republicans basically ran on one platform. We're not going to do what the other guys did or have been doing. They were elected resoundingly. Why would you then want to go back basically on your word and say, yeah, now we're going to kind of work with the other guys? Look, what are you going to do? Say we're going to go halfway on the pipeline and only run it to Nebraska. That'll be the compromise.
Well, Lisa, what do you make of this? Is that changing any mind, certainly for now, within the Republican Party?
Well, look, I agree with Christie in the sense that I would like to see some compromise. I would like to see some common ground. But the problem is Christie also said that House Republicans should move forward on the Keystone Pipeline. They should move forward on reforming our tax code, and they should move forward on rolling back some of the owners' regulations. But the problem we face is that we don't have a partner in the White House, and that President Obama has remained uncooperative on issues such as Keystone Pipeline and as far as rolling back regulations. So that's the biggest problem we face is President Obama.
I'll end that issue one with this. I want all of you to eat a salad, okay? That's what I'm just saying there. All right, meanwhile, is the guy Republicans' constitutional ripper suddenly pulling a Gipper? The White House says Republicans shouldn't be making a fuss out of executive orders on immigration because Ronald Reagan did the same thing, so did George H.W. Bush. Lisa, you argue there's a big difference.
I think there's a huge difference, and I think it's incredibly disingenuous that Democrats are spewing this propaganda, because the reality is that President Obama is looking to move forward on immigration or on an executive action on immigration that we have not seen before in the history of this country. And President H.W. Bush and Reagan were responding to legislation that were passed, and their executive orders, which I do not condone, but their executive orders were as far as implementing that legislation and that marker that was set down by Congress. What President Obama is doing runs contradictory of things that he has said in the past.
Interesting. This is a different case, right?
Well,
it's incredibly different.
It's also a cheap parlor trick to try to invoke Reagan and Bush 41 to actually, make it look like it's the same thing. Okay, both of those other instances, it was less than a few million people that were involved. We're talking 5 million people that might not get deported and might get working papers in this country. There is a path to citizenship. This is not the path to citizenship. This is giving everybody else the green light. Let's go to America. We'll get this piece of paper signed, and we'll be free to run around the country. That's not what this country's built on.
Gary B., what do you think?
Well, Lisa makes a good point. You know, what Bush and Reagan did was merely a continuation of what Congress already did. Now Congress, at least the new Congress, will be vehemently opposed. But even apart from that, what's to say you can't go back and say, hey, your guy did a bad thing, so our guy can do a bad thing. Right. What they all did was basically unconstitutional. So for Obama, who basically said, I wouldn't do anything like this because it's against the Constitution, to go back on his word is idiotic.